In today's video, we're going to be talking about Microsoft and Sony, how they both just constantly make mistakes and seemingly can't do anything right. But hopefully, in the end, it'll be okay for Microsoft because they're kind of doing some management changes. But Sony, I have no idea what Sony's doing. They just refuse to do good things, it seems like. My name is the Techno Jelly. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do these news style videos on Mondays, so come over on Monday to check out the channel. Now, let's get straight into the video. So, starting with the fact that Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond have both been said to retire. I know the reason I say it like that is because I'm pretty sure they were both fired. At least that's coming from me. They reported it by IGN and then eventually they tweeted it out and then Microsoft themselves said it. But Phil Spencer is retiring from the CEO position. Same with Sarah Bond, the president of Xbox, is retiring as well. And while I do agree with the change of leadership because unfortunately, whether or not I like Phil Spencer or not, because I did think he's a good guy and a nice person, Phil Spencer's Xbox didn't work because he became the CEO in 2021, but he's been with the company for a long time. And unfortunately, Xbox has been falling apart for a very long time. Now, the previous failures weren't necessarily his fault. Like the Xbox One and stuff like that, that's not his fault entirely. But the recent Xbox failures, especially in the last, since the pandemic, since 2020, have been very closely tied to Phil Spencer. And Xbox has pretty much failed in every aspect except for Xbox Game Pass. And even with that, there's an asterisk to Xbox Game Pass because even though Microsoft says they're making money on Xbox Game Pass, I feel like the numbers are being manipulated, so they are, because I just can't imagine them making enough money for the how subscriptions have been going. Because while in the beginning subscriptions constantly went up, I don't think they've been going up as much as they wanted to, especially when they bought Call of Duty and then the Call of Duty being on Game Pass wasn't really there. Like it didn't boost the numbers that they wanted it to. So I feel like they have spent a lot of money. And considering the amount of money they've spent, it feels like they haven't gone a lot when it comes to Xbox Game Pass because the problem with Xbox Game Pass is that it's an amazing deal, but you need to own an Xbox, and most people don't care about Xbox. And I feel like that is kind of the problem of Phil Spencer's and Sarah Bond's Xbox and Microsoft Gaming when they were there. Because unfortunately, no one cares about that brand anymore. And the brand of Xbox is on a serious decline. And that is, I feel like, the problem. Now, I do want to say that there is a chance that I get to eat my words because the new CEO, Asha Sharma, is an AI person. She was the president of Microsoft's core AI product. She worked at Meta and she worked at another company called Porsche Group, which was an insurance company and stuff like that. So she's been in the tech industry at least. She's not just some random person that has never touched the tech side of anything. At least the problem is that she is heavily involved with AI stuff, and that is very concerning because Microsoft is stuffing AI in everything right now, and we don't really know if the reason that Xbox hasn't really been that big into AI right now is because Phil Spencer has been denying it, and along with Sarah Bond. So that is a potential big problem coming up, and that is unfortunately something that we can't really say right now what's going to happen simply because we have no idea. It's really all words right now because she's saying the right words, Asha. She is saying the right thing. She had an open letter that was released on the Microsoft official blog that came out and she said the right things. She even has a direct quote about AI, which I think is a good quote to read. And what she said in this quote is, as I quote, as monetization and AI evolve and influence in the future, we will not chase short-term efficiencies or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop. Games are, as always, will be art, crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us, end quote. And that quote seems good on paper, but the problem is I'm really worried about what she means by innovative technology provided by us, because right now, innovative technology is AI for a lot of people. And putting AI on anything means people are interested. So, what does that mean for Xbox is the real question. Because we know Microsoft is going all in. Like, they have been going all in. They've spent literally billions of dollars on AI stuff. So, we know Microsoft is all in, but is Xbox all in? And seemingly, I want to say yes, with an asterisk of we're not sure if all in means AI is going to be in everything or if AI is going to be a part of everything. And I feel like those are two distinct versions of it, because if it's in everything, it's going to be stuff. There's going to be Copilot everywhere, basically. But if it's a part of anything, of everything, that means maybe they're talking about the AI tools to help with the game coding or game concept art or scripts, who knows. And both of those versions are bad the way I described it, but one of them with the AI tools has a good outcome where they just use AI tools. And I'm not talking about like the chat GPTs making coding and all that type of stuff. I'm just talking about, the AI tools that already exist and can be enhanced with human interaction with it, and it's not replacing humans. The problem is when you get to that point of where it's replacing humans, that's when it becomes a big problem, I feel like. And we're not entirely sure if that is what's going to be happening, because at least from the outside looking in, she's literally been involved in AI stuff before. She was literally the president of the Microsoft's core AI product. So, and now she's the CEO of Xbox. So it's not looking good, but she's saying the right things right now, which is the big deal. Because if she wasn't even saying the right things, then I'd be even more worried. But it is just words, like I said before. So it's really a who knows what's going to happen right now. And at least Matt Booty is also going to be there as well. He's also been a veteran of the company as well. So it's going to be interesting with that. And I'm also really shocked that Sarah Bond is also leaving. It feels like Microsoft rushed this announcement because Sarah Bond's social media stuff was still being active, and she was talking about getting feedback from players literally like a couple hours before she was fired, basically. So it feels like Sarah didn't know this was going to happen as this fast as well, which is interesting. And I'm surprised that Sarah wasn't just going to take up the CEO position of Microsoft Gaming, because it was very obvious, at least from my point of view, and others, to be fair, like IGN and other news sources, that everyone thought that Sarah Bond was basically just being mentored to become the Microsoft Gaming CEO because she was the one under Phil Spencer. But no, she's not. She's just getting moved. She is no longer a part of Xbox, from what I can tell. Like, she's not even being moved to a different position. She's just straight up being told to retire, I'm pretty sure, is what happened to both of them. Which is, nice to let them not just get fired so they can retire on their own terms. But, I mean, honestly, I don't think Phil Spencer would have retired if he wasn't told to. I think he would have gone to his grave as Microsoft Gaming CEO. And overall, with everything, with all the facts down, I think this is a decision made by Microsoft that's not surprising, because Xbox is not doing well. But it's also a decision that is going to be very indicative of what is Xbox going to be now. Because Phil Spencer was kind of the last bastion of, I'm a gamer as well. Ashley could prove me wrong, but she doesn't seem to be the gamer type, Phil Spencer is still a CEO. He was still like a board guy. He was still a suit and tie, but he played the role of being a gamer as well very successfully. And sure, yes, he wasn't fully a gamer in terms of what we think about when, like, a dude bro gamer. But he knew video games. He understood the references. He understood what video games are. He loved video games. Asha, from the outside looking in, is not that. I could be wrong, but this is going to be a new Xbox. And what does that new Xbox mean? The end of Phil Spencer is going to be an end of an era for Xbox. Not a different look. This is a complete overhaul of the management. And Asha is going to set the tone of what Xbox is going to mean. And even within her own letter, she talks about needing Xbox to come back to Xbox, the return of Xbox. And she also talked about needing great games as well. Now, once again, those are empty words if nothing happens. But the biggest thing is that Xbox is making a big move. And we're going to see if this move is to kill Xbox or trying to revive Xbox. Because Asha could simply be there to try to get as much profit as possible, and then they're going to close the Xbox division. That wouldn't surprise me. It would suck, but it wouldn't surprise me. Because Xbox is not doing well. And maybe Asha is there just to put in profits where they can and slowly kill all the stuff. Write it as losses. Restructuring losses. as some companies do. And I hope that's not the case. But she is definitely in that position. With her history, it does seem that she would be the person to start that tidal wave. But from what she's saying, that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to return to Xbox. They're trying to make the players of Xbox remember and be renewed and come back, basically. And I want to believe her, but actions are going to speak way louder than words. And I'm also curious how soon she's going to be able to do this. Because, like, the Xbox Series is basically a failure. Game Pass is weird. Their cloud service is strong. I know that. Their cloud gaming stuff is dominating, but the problem is cloud gaming is just not something gamers care about. And their purchasing of studios and stuff like that, there is no layoffs right now, but I do not see that staying the course. I see layoffs happening within a year because some of the studios that Microsoft bought haven't provided enough games. Like, the only one that I can even think of that made many games since the purchase is pretty much Obsidian. And, like, Double Fine technically made a game, but, like, their Double Fine never makes games that are making you tons of money. They make weird artsy games most of the time. So, like, I don't know. I don't see a lot of those studios surviving because you need to start making money. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, you need to start releasing games. So hopefully they can just start releasing games, and then, who cares if Asha understands the games or not? As long as they're making decent money on profits of what they're spending, hopefully that can work. But it's going to be a real question mark for at least a couple months to see what happens. But I'm assuming we're going to see what happened, like the determination this year, and I'll be keeping an eye on it. Moving on to the other big announcement that happened this week as well. Sony has shut down Blueprint Games, the developers of the Shadow of Colossus remake and the Demon's Souls remake that both launched on PS5. And everyone is so confused because Bluepoint Games, sorry, I keep calling them Blueprint, is just a amazing studio. The Shadow of Colossus remake and the Demon's Souls remake brought those two games to an audience that have never played it before, and for an audience that doesn't really play those types of games, a lot of people love that game. And both of those games. And if I had a PS5, honestly, I probably would be playing both of them. But I don't have a PS5. But a lot of people that did have PS5s, that I do know, that I did see on the internet everywhere, loved it. And Polygon, Kotaku, and all of the big news organizations all had stories on this. But the biggest ones that I consider to be like the biggest bombshells and the ones that are most eye-opening for me was the Kotaku one, because Kotaku, I think, was just sick and tired of Sony because they just announced it's like they are shutting down Blueprint Games or Bluepoint Studios, and they just started listing out studios that Sony has bought and what have happened to them. And basically the gist of it is they bought them, nothing happened, and they're shut down, which is really sad for a lot of these companies. And Sony is in a position similar to Microsoft because they're in a way of their strategy for the past 5 to 8 years has failed because they are doing this whole live service thing, right? And the reason Bluepoint Games has been shut down is because the game they were working on, which was a God of War live service, was canceled last year, and they pitched stuff for a whole year and nothing was approved, and so they're getting canned. And the strategy that Sony has done failed really hard. All of the games that they wanted to come out for their live service catalog has failed. Games of service or live service video games has failed really hard for Sony. And basically the only one that still exists for them is Destiny 2, which wasn't made by Sony at the time of them buying Bungie. It's already a thing that they have out. Concord failed hard. The game being made by Heaven Studios, the live service shooter called Fair Games, we have no idea what's happening. It's been a long time since we've heard anything from them. And technically, Helldivers 2 is a success for them, but I don't think that's in spite of Sony, not because of Sony. So they're really at an impasse right now for what they are going to do. Because a lot of people are considering Sony ahead of Microsoft, but the reason Sony is ahead of Microsoft is not because Sony's good decisions, it's because Xbox has failed so hard that it doesn't matter. Sony's been failing and doing really dumb decisions year after year after year, The only difference is that Microsoft has been making more bad decisions, because we don't want to forget Concord is a Sony thing that happened. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars in that failure, and Marathon is going to happen as well, and that isn't looking very good. It's looking better than Concord, but still a very big question mark. Sony bought Bungie for $3.3 billion, and it's not looking like they're going to get that money back at all in terms of the investment, because Bungie just straight up isn't worth that much. I hate to say it, they're just not. And we're really at a stage in Sony's life cycle with the games of where, like, where are the games? And where are the games that are known for the Sony franchise? Because basically only God of War exists. We haven't had an Uncharted game in a long time. We haven't had any of the Sony cartoony games like Ape Escape, Jack and Daxter, or the Sly Cooper games as well have been basically gone. And so we're like at this point where it's like, okay, Sony, where are your games? Because even going through those cartoony games, yeah, sure, maybe cartoony games or like platformers and stuff that aren't really there, but like, where is the Infamous games? Like, superhero games are really big right now. Where is the next Infamous? Last of Us has basically not been, there hasn't been a new Last of Us game since Last of Us 2, and like, where is Last of Us 3? It's been taking a very long time. Where are the other shooter franchises you own, like the Killzones, the Resistance? Even though, yeah, sure, they're not Halo, they're not Call of Duty, but like, these games were also there for Sony, because the Sony IPs is basically just God of War and Gran Turismo now. Because Helldivers is a very recent one. And so, like, Helldivers 2 is technically a Sony thing, but it's also multi-platform, and it is, to be fair to Helldivers, not really developed with Sony in mind. They just happen to own them eventually. Horizon is one of the bigger ones, but the problem is Horizon 3 has taken a very long time to come out, and the next Horizon games are not being made by Guerrilla Games, and they are being basically made to look like live service games, which is not a good sign. The two new games, I've literally did a video on them, and they look like live service games. One of them looks like literally a mobile game, and the other one is going to be riddled with microtransactions because of the developer. So hopefully there's a third game coming out at some point, but like, the single player games have basically gone to zero. And like, for like, there's so many things where I'm like, I get it. Infamous, the reason Infamous is not there is because the people who made Infamous are making the Ghost of Tsushima games. I get that. I'm not blaming them for moving on, because, you know, the Infamous games, while I enjoyed them, have definitely moved on to greater things with the Ghost of Tsushima, but they just keep closing studios. And Bluepoint should have been a Sony studio making single player games or remakes of games, so people could get into the Sony IPs that have never been able to play them. You know, like a new generation, just like the Demon Souls and the Shadow of Colossus games, but it's never going to happen now. And I'm just so confused why Sony hates money and they don't like making games that people are just going to buy stuff for. Because the PS5 is sold really well, so making games for the PS5 makes sense. But here they are, not making games for the PS5. Instead, they still want the live service crap, because they're so obsessed with making billions of dollars instead of tens of millions of dollars, which I guess makes sense if you're an executive, but I really hope that something is done with Sony. Unfortunately, Sony is actually in a worse spot than Microsoft, in my opinion, because I don't see a leadership change or anything like that changing Sony's decision, because there hasn't anything like that has happened. I think Sony's just going to keep going the way they're going, and I think they're going to pay for it in the long run. While Microsoft potentially is changing gears. We don't know if those gears are going to be good, but they're definitely changing something. I don't see Sony really changing that much, other than the fact that they want to pivot away from the live service stuff, but then shutting down Bluepoint Games makes no sense, because they should be, yeah, cancel the live service game they're working on, get them to make something else. It shouldn't take 5+ years to make a remake of a single player game. It should take a couple years, because you know exactly what the game's going to be. But apparently that's too complicated for Sony to think about. So hopefully something is done, but I don't see it happening. I'll be keeping an eye on both of these companies, of course. I mean, it is Sony and Microsoft. But thank you everyone for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to support me, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really Appreciate it. If you do, comment down below what you guys think about this. If you have confidence in Sony or Microsoft in doing anything good for actual gamers, as you can tell, I don't have that much hope, but we'll see. If you would like to support me directly, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/detectivejelly. Please come over and join those members. You can join a once a month live stream we have over there. You can vote on it right now as the poll is going. You also join the credits as they're rolling by. If you'd like to support even more so and get a product yourself, I have a affiliate code, the Techno Jelly, with poggers.shop. Linked down in the description. They do energy drink stuff with energy mixes, hydration, and sleep aid tubs, as well as cups as well for the shakers. And once again, if you use my code, you get 10% off any of their stuff on their store, poggers.shop, linked in the description. If you would like to follow me on other platforms, I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads. Thank you everyone for watching. Click or tap on my face for future videos on my channel. And thank you. And I'll see you in those videos. Goodbye, everyone.